You've heard of Jerusalem. You've heard of the Holy Cross, but what if I told you that thousands of crusaders fought their holy wars in places no pilgrim ever reached? In frozen forests where prayers froze midder, where the Teutonic Knights crushed pagan tribes beneath winter snow. In deserts where the cross was swallowed by sand, where a French king died of fever, never seeing battle. In kingdoms that no one remembers, where children marched toward the sea, believing God would part the waters. These were the forgotten fronts, the crusades that history buried, yet shaped the faith and fury of Europe for centuries. This is not a story of glory. It's a story of devotion, conquest, and the price of believing you are fighting for God. The Fire of Clermont. It begins in 1095 at Clermont, France. Pope Urban II stands before a crowd of nobles, knights, and peasants, and speaks words that will echo across continents. Dies vult, God wills it. The call is simple: save Jerusalem, reclaim the Holy Sepulchre, and win eternal salvation. But what begins as a mission to the Holy Land becomes something far greater and far darker. Within decades, the crusading fever spreads beyond Jerusalem. It becomes a weapon wielded not just against Muslims, but against pagans, heretics, and anyone who stands outside the embrace of Rome. The cross goes north, south, and west. By the early 13th century, crusading is no longer one war, it is many. Knights take the cross not to reach the Holy Land, but to conquer forests they've never seen, deserts they cannot name, and peoples whose languages they do not speak. In the Baltic, Duke Conrad of Masovia invites the Teutonic Knights to defend his borders against pagan Prussia. In Spain, Christian kings rally under papal blessing to push back Muslim rule in what becomes known as the Reconquista. In North Africa, a French king plans an assault on Tunis, convinced its ruler is ready to convert. And in France and Germany, children begin to march, not with swords but with prayers. Faith as light, faith as blade. These campaigns are launched with the same fervor that sent men to Jerusalem. Bishops preach, nobles pledge, peasants follow, crosses are sewn into tunics, prayers are chanted at dawn. And men believe, truly believe, that they are instruments of divine will. But the line between salvation and slaughter blurs quickly. What is holy war to one man is genocide to another. What is conversion to one is enslavement to another. The Crusades become not just about Jerusalem, but about expansion, control, and the violent imposition of faith. The roads no longer lead only to the Holy Land. They lead north into snow, south into sand, and inward into the darkest impulses of Christendom. The Baltic, where snow drank blood from the Chronicle of Peter Suckenwert, Austrian poet. The heathens were made to suffer. Many were captured, and in every case, they were led off, all tied up, just like hunting dogs. In 1230, the Teutonic Knights arrive in Prussia. Invited by Duke Conrad to pacify pagan tribes, they do not come as missionaries. They come as conquerors. The forests are dark and deep, the winters are merciless. The Prussians, pagan tribes who worship the spirits of oak and river, resist fiercely, but the knights are relentless. They build fortresses. They burn villages. They baptize survivors at sword point. Women and children are enslaved. Men are killed to prevent rebellion. In the deep snows of the Baltic, many prisoners never reach the slave markets. They die in chains, frozen along forest roads. This is not a pilgrimage. It is extermination dressed in piety. By 1242, the Teutonic Order controls vast territories. They establish the Livonian Order and attempt to conquer Orthodox Russia at the Battle on the Ice. But when the King of Lithuania converts in 1253, hoping baptism will end the violence, the Crusaders do not stop. They continue their campaigns for decades more because this is no longer about faith. It is about power. Iberia, the home front crusade. In Spain, the war is older, deeper, and closer to home. For centuries, Christian kingdoms have fought to reclaim the peninsula from Muslim rule. But by 1212, it becomes a crusade officially sanctioned by the Pope. July 16, 1212, the Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa. King Alfonso VIII of Castile, King Pedro II of Aragon, and King Sancho VII of Navarre unite under papal blessing. Archbishop Ximenes de Rada preaches the crusade across Europe, and 70,000 northern Europeans join 60,000 Spanish troops. The armies march south through Castile in the brutal summer heat. Disease spreads. Many northerners, disgusted by the Spanish king's merciful treatment of captured Muslims. No plunder, no slaughter, abandon the campaign. But those who remain press on. At Las Navas, they face the Moroccan emir Muhammad al-Na'ir. The battle is swift and brutal. Alfonso holds his reserves while Pedro and Sancho act as pincers, crushing the Muslim center. Al-Na'ir flees. Thousands lie dead. His tent and standard are sent to Pope Innocent III as trophies. It is called one of the greatest victories of the Reconquista. But the aftermath is grim. Pestilence and lack of supplies prevent further advance. The Christians return home, exhausted, their victory hollow. The war will drag on for centuries more. Africa, the king who died in the dust, from the Chronicle of Geoffrey de Beaulieu. Confessor to King Louis IX. The king was convinced that the ruler of Africa was ready to be converted to Christianity. In 1270, Louis IX of France, already known as Saint Louis, takes the cross for the second time. He had failed once before in Egypt. Now he believes God is calling him to Tunis. His reasoning is mystical, perhaps delusional. He is convinced that Muhammad al-Mustansir, the Hafsid ruler, is ready to convert. He believes that conquering North Africa will open a path to Jerusalem. His confessor calls it the king's holy madness. The fleet sails in the summer of 1270 to 19 Genoese vessels, 20 from Marseille. They land on the shores of Africa in July. The sun is merciless, water is scarce. And within weeks, dysentery ravages the camp. Louis IX never fights a battle. He dies in his tent, feverish and broken, on August 25, 1270. The crusade collapses. The Treaty of Tunis is negotiated. No territorial changes, only minor commercial rights. The crusaders sail home. It is not a crusade. It is a funeral. The children innocents betrayed from the Chronique Universelle Anonyme Laudunensis. In the year 1212, a certain Pori named Stephen, a shepherd by profession, from a village called Cloyes, claimed the Lord appeared to him in the guise of a poor pilgrim. Stephen is 12 years old. He is a shepherd from Cloyes, near the Loire River. He says Christ came to him as a pilgrim and gave him holy letters to deliver to the King of France. He gathers followers, thousands of them. They are called pueri, a word that means children, or perhaps the poor and landless. They are young, zealous, and convinced that God will part the sea for them as he did for Moses. In Germany, another leader emerges, Nicholas of Cologne. He leads a separate movement, perhaps unrelated to Stephen's. Together, these two processions march across Europe in the spring and summer of 1212. Most chroniclers say they never reached the Holy Land. Some say they were sold into slavery. Others say they simply dispersed, disillusioned, when the waters did not part. A few may have reached Italy only to be turned away at ports. What is certain is this: they believed, and their belief was exploited. They were children who thought purity could achieve what armies could not. Instead, they became another footnote in the ledger of Holy War's failures. The dream dies by 1291. The dream is over. Acre, the last great crusader city in the Holy Land, falls to the Mamluk Sultan Halil on May 18th. The siege is brutal. The Christians are forced to flee to Cyprus. The Latin East, the crusader-created states, ceases to exist. In the Baltic, the Teutonic Order has become a state unto itself. No longer defenders of Christendom, but a colonial power. In Spain, the Reconquista continues for another 200 years, but it is no longer a crusade. It is national conquest. And in Tunis, the bones of Louis IX rest in reliquaries, venerated as a saint who died for nothing. What remains the forgotten fronts leave no monuments, no grand cathedrals, no pilgrim trails. They leave only ghosts. The Baltic forests remember the screams of the enslaved. The deserts of Africa remember the fever tents of French knights. The roads of France remember the children who marched with prayers and returned with nothing. These were the Crusades that no one sings about. The wars fought not for Jerusalem, but for expansion, control, and the violent certainty that God was on their side. They went to save souls but lost their own. They carried the cross and left behind ghosts. Closing faith can light the world, but it can also burn it. The forgotten fronts remind us that not all holy wars are remembered as holy. Some are simply wars, and the dust they raise settles not on glory, but on graves. This is the story history tried to bury. Now you know.